Hey everyone, welcome. So in this explainer, we're diving into an absolute game changer. I mean, a genuine paradigm shift that's going to totally rescue you from that exhausting trap of inefficient studying. You know the feeling, right? You spend literally hours grinding away, trying to learn something, and then you sit down for the exam and your mind just goes totally blank. Well, if you've been there, you are absolutely in the right place today. Let's get right into it. Are you wasting 80% of your study time? Man, that hits hard, doesn't it? But according to our source material, that is the painful, very real reality for the vast majority of students. We're studying the wrong way, we are basically wasting almost all of our time, and honestly, the worst part? We don't even realize it's happening until it's way too late.
Think of your brain like a bucket, but unfortunately, this bucket has holes all over the bottom. You sit at your desk for hours just desperately pouring water, which is the information, expecting that bucket to fill up. But because of the study methods you're using, almost all of that water just leaks right out the sides. You're pouring in hours of massive effort, but you're only retaining these tiny little drops of knowledge. It's incredibly frustrating, and it completely drains your motivation, doesn't it?
So let's talk about the first major trap, the illusion of learning.
10%. A shockingly low 10%. You know that thing where you sit down with a giant textbook, highlight all the important-looking sentences in bright yellow, and just reread your notes over and over? Well, it turns out studies show that rereading gives you a dismal retention rate of only 10%. Basically, if you reread a chapter today, by this exact time next week, 90% of it is just completely gone.
So why on earth does rereading feel so productive if it's actually so terrible? Well, it's because your brain easily recognizes the words on the page. But here's the catch. Recognition is absolutely not the same thing as understanding. Think about it like this. If you watch your favorite movie over and over again, yeah, you get really familiar with the story, you can totally anticipate the next scene, but watching that movie 100 times doesn't suddenly make you an expert filmmaker, right? Passive rereading basically just makes you a passive movie watcher of your own textbook.
And that leads us to the second massive mistake, cramming. Come on, we've all been there. Staying up all night, completely fueled by coffee, just aggressively stuffing facts into our heads like we're forcing an overstuffed suitcase closed. But here's the biological reality of what's happening. Your brain actually treats crammed information like disposable junk mail. It literally throws it right in the trash because you haven't given it any genuine, long-term reason to hold on to it. Poof, gone in just a few days.
Which brings us to the third big mistake, which is studying passively. I actually love this analogy. Ask yourself this. Would you just dive straight into the deep end of a swimming pool simply because you read a book about swimming? Of course not. You'd completely drown. Yet, when it comes to studying, students passively read a textbook, or maybe watch a lecture, and then jump straight into a final exam expecting to be an expert. Passive consumption just does not work, period. Which brings us to our second section and the ultimate solution, the game-changing shift to active retention. The data on this is just absolute proof of why active retention is so crucial. Like we just talked about, passive reading sits way down at the bottom with a sad 10% retention rate. But look at what happens when you actually move up to active engagement. Practicing what you've learned rockets your retention straight up to 75%. And at the very top of that pyramid, teaching the concept to someone else hits a staggering 90% retention rate. It's a total game changer.
So, to hit that golden 90% tier, we use the absolute core focus of our explainer today. It's called the Feynman Technique. Named after the legendary physicist Richard Feynman, the rule here is brutally simple. If you cannot explain something in simple terms, you don't actually understand it. This right here is your ultimate time-saving weapon for true, deep mastery.
Okay, let's actually walk through how to execute this process step by step. Step 1, pick the concept you need to learn. Step 2, and honestly, this is where the magic really happens, try to teach it out loud to a 5-year-old. Literally strip away all the complex jargon. By doing this, you instantly hit step 3, which is finding the gaps. When you stumble, or you just can't explain a certain part simply, well, you've just exposed exactly what you don't know. So you go back, relearn just that specific little part, and then move to step 4, refining your explanation until it's crystal clear. Teaching literally forces your brain to organize the information perfectly.
Now, the very top students don't just stop at the Feynman technique. They actually combine it with relentless active recall and self-quizzing. Instead of just passively reading, they're lifting the mental weights. You know, they use flashcards, they take self-made quizzes, and they heavily rely on past exam papers. In fact, our source material highlights a real-world case study showing that students who actively quiz themselves before studying boosted their exam scores by a massive 50% compared to those who just reread their notes. No joke, 50%.
All right, moving on to section 3, hacking the forgetting curve.
50%. That is the harsh biological reality of the human brain. There's this thing called the forgetting curve, and it dictates that within just one single hour of learning something brand new, your brain will automatically discard half of it if it thinks it's not going to be used again. Your brain is literally physically wired to forget things efficiently to save energy.
But thankfully, there is a super well-researched memory hack to beat this system, and it's called spaced repetition. So instead of a grueling 6-hour cram session, you just spread it out. On day 1, you learn the material actively. Then, on day 3, you do a quick, maybe 10-minute active review. By day 7, you self-test without any notes at all. By strategically spacing out the retrieval of that information, you effectively interrupt the forgetting curve and lock the data into your long-term memory. And the best part? It takes significantly less total effort.
And finally, section 4, building unbreakable study habits. To execute all of this seamlessly on a daily basis, we use 3 highly effective habit hacks. First up, the 2-minute rule. Look, don't tell yourself you have to study for an hour. Just tell yourself to review one single flashcard. Getting started is always the hardest part, and this little trick flips your brain into a, well, might as well keep going mode. Second is habit stacking. This is where you attach your studying to something you already do automatically every day, like maybe reviewing one concept right after you brush your teeth. And finally, to avoid that terrible marathon burnout, use Pomodoro sprints. Go for 25 minutes of really deep focus, and then reward yourself with a guaranteed 5-minute break.
Honestly, this entire explainer really boils down to this fantastic quote: "Small daily effort beats last-minute panic every single time." It's so true. If you actually implement the Feynman technique, use active recall, and just space out your reviews in small daily chunks, you are going to completely dismantle that leaky bucket problem forever. You won't just be memorizing facts anymore. You will genuinely master the material.
So I want to leave you with a direct challenge today. Don't wait until your next huge exam to try this stuff out. Take a look at your syllabus, or literally whatever you're trying to learn right now. Pick just one thing, and ask yourself, what concept will you teach to a 5-year-old today? Seriously, try the Feynman technique out right now and just see for yourself how quickly it reveals what you actually know and what you still need to brush up on. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Now get out there and go crush it.